Hit that subscribe button, YouTubers. This is the best start or sit analysis you're going to get in the industry, and you get to hear me rant about the Giants today. Let's go. Let's get started right now. Hey, happy Friday for some of you. For me, frustrating Friday. We welcome you to fantasy football today. It was a really exciting game last night, but we got some fantasy running back concerns. I think people are worried about Antonio Gibson more than Saquon Barkley. We will see. I did a Twitter poll last night. Let's find out what the results are. I'm Adam Azer, just with Jamie Eisenberg today. Two-man show is going to run you through the NFC home games. Could have some real high-scoring games, Jamie, especially with the NFC West, which is just going to be a fun division. But we got Tennessee and Seattle. We got Arizona and Minnesota. Hopefully Green Bay. I know they're not in the NFC West. Hopefully Green Bay puts up some points. I feel like a lot of points are going to be scored. I feel like we got some. I don't want to take the shine away from the show or anything. I feel like we have some pretty easy games in terms of start or sit. Just start your studs and don't have to worry about matchups too much. Did you find that to be the case this week more so than last week?
Well, it's also, there's a game's worth of data, and seeing things unfold and, seeing how guys are being used and some of those things. So you have a little bit of better understanding of, who you can trust potentially, who you might want to be a little bit concerned about. Some market correction, with guys who struggled in week one that we expect to bounce back. The Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Ezekiel Elliott's, those type of guys I think will bounce back. But no, just stop. Just get to the thing everybody's here to listen to. Let's talk about Thursday night. How do you feel, buddy? How do you feel?
Immediately on the floor. I'm pissed. I'm really pissed. Because I'm upset. You're a big football fan, obviously. You're no longer a big Dolphins fan. That was your childhood.
Yes.
But for me, and for a lot of NFL fans out there, if you root for a franchise like this, it's a hopeless feeling. And I'm 2 weeks in, and I feel like I have no reason to be excited anymore. Like Sundays would come along, and I get excited for the job, but there's another thing that I'm excited about, and it's watching the Giants. I'm like, yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I have no hope anymore. This was the butt fumble for me. I remember the butt fumble Thanksgiving, and my brother, huge Jets fan, and he called me, and that was the moment where all hope was lost for him. He just felt like he was just doomed. Last night was the butt fumble, and it was so embarrassing. If you had a camera in my house, because I'm in the kitchen, and my wife, I didn't know at the time, was sleeping on the couch, and the TV's on in both rooms. He misses the field goal. I run into the other room. I start dancing. I wake her up. I'm like, yeah, I'm going nuts. And then I see the flag, and I was like, no. I hit the floor. I stayed on the floor for the field goal, and then I just buried my head on like the mat that, on the floor. It wasn't on like, a dirty floor. And I was like distraught. It's just, for a football game, it's pathetic. I'm 37, but this was butt fumble to me. This was like the end of my hope. I have no hope for them. They are ridiculous. They found every way to lose that game.
I will say, obviously, look, this is what fans go through. It's you live and die with your team, and that's the cool part about it. You obviously want to be on the other side of it, especially when there's some silly mistakes, like the guy standing right in front of the ball, the one that jumps off sides. You got to be a little excited about Daniel Jones. He looked good.
I mean, if he plays Washington every week, it's all he's ever good about. Yeah, he did look good. He did, finally, and they wasted it. It's just a shame. But
it was. Did you think it was a bad throw to Darius Slayton, or he dropped it?
First of all, he was getting hit or very close to it. It wasn't a perfect throw. You got to make that catch.
Well, it's funny because I made a joke on Twitter. I said, "Drop you Slayton," and I wouldn't say I got flooded with bad throw, but I'm like, bad throw.
I saw that too. I saw Ben Gretsch tweeted it, not bad throw, but that it was. I think
it's not perfect.
More on the throw, but no, it was. You got to catch.
Hit him in the hands.
Yeah. It had to extend a little bit, but you got to catch that ball. All right. Now, I know some people really don't want me to talk about the Giants, but thank you for letting me get that off my chest. So let me get to the
running backs. You want to just stay there if you want.
Yeah, let's get to the Twitter poll. Who would you rather have rest of season? I got to say I was surprised by this. Saquon Barkley or Antonio Gibson?
Oh, stop. Really?
What would you say?
Gibson.
I thought that people would be more concerned about Gibson than Barkley. And 61% voted Gibson. And Gibson was off the field. I mean, he's got a role issue here. McKissick has, well, actually, let me give you the snap breakdown. Pretty interesting stuff. Actually, like very interesting stuff. So this is from Nathan Janke of PFF.
Yeah, he does a great job.
Yeah, right, he does, yeah. So Antonio Gibson, first and second down, dominated carries. 41 snaps, he had 30, and not in the 2-minute drill. So not at obvious passing situations. 38 snaps, McKissick had 5. Third downs, not in the 2-minute drill. McKissick had 7 snaps, Gibson had 3. You can live with that. 2-minute drill, McKissick had 19 snaps, Gibson had 1. So that was really why he wasn't on the field as much. They were in the 2-minute drill a lot in this game. And McKissick dominated. Other than that, I mean, running downs, Gibson's going to dominate. Third downs, McKissick's going to win, but Gibson will be there a little bit. But he's off to a disappointing start right now, and he's not involved as much.
Would you say week 1 was disappointing?
For 22 carries or 20 carries, whatever he had? Yeah. And another report before the game of Aaron Andrews talking about how he said he's still learning the position. So I don't think yet. You watch him play. I mean, I feel like when he figures it out, bam, he's going to be awesome. But he's not there yet, so he's still not doing as much as he should with the carries. I don't know. I mean, I thought Barkley would win the Twitter poll. Actually, I'm surprised. You obviously think it's an easy answer to go with Gibson.
I mean, I like for both of them to be great. So they were within like 4 or 5 spots of how I had it ranked, with Gibson higher. So I'm still going to stick with Gibson. I mean, for a guy that averaged over 5 yards per carry against a really good run defense, I think that was pretty nice to see. There's a couple of things that make me a little bit concerned about Gibson. One, I don't know how much you paid attention to this. I don't think Taylor Heinicke threw to his left side very much at all, and especially in the latter half of the game, everything was to his right. And every time Gibson went out into a pass route, it was to his left, including the interception. Gibson was wide open, couldn't be more wide open in the flat on the left side, and Bradbury jumps the route, and it's an interception. And obviously, the Giants should have won the game. So I don't know how much that factors into anything, but in any event, at least for me, I expected kind of this to be the case when they're in completely obvious passing down situations that we saw in the preseason. Gibson was coming off the field, but they're still going to involve him in the passing game. Now, I don't know, how that's going to change with Heinicke replacing Fitzpatrick, because I think Fitzpatrick probably does a better job at this point in his career of seeing the field.
Yeah, well, I mean, I outlined it on Wednesday's show or Wednesday's show. I know you weren't on it, but so far in his brief history as a quarterback, not a lot of passes to the running backs.
I mean, that changed last night.
It did late in the game, yeah, and he got McKissick going a little bit. McKissick had 5 catches for 83 yards. He had that big play, but not a lot to Gibson. Only 2 catches for Gibson.
Right, but if you say 7 catches to the running backs in a game that they're back and forth, I think that will change. Like you said, he's still learning the position. He's not even played a full season yet at running back in the NFL because of the time that he missed last year. So I'll if somebody's trading him, I'll buy low. I still think he's a really good offensive line. I think this is one of his tougher matchups because the Giants' run defense. I mean, you've outlined this for a year plus, and I think you're right. They're good against running backs. And you could say, okay, there's 2 games of a sample size where McKissick was great in the passing game, and last week Melvin Gordon popped a big run. Those things are going to happen, but I'll still buy into a guy that was averaging 5 yards per carry, and they probably run the ball at the end of the game a little bit more. His numbers look a little bit better because he ripped off the big run, the 10-yard run to start the drive, and then the interception came in a couple plays later.
Well, yeah. The other thing is that the defense is just not as good as we thought it was going to be.
No, that is a big concern for Washington.
Yeah, I'm not even sure you need to keep them. They're at Buffalo next week, at Atlanta, New Orleans.
The pass rush. Chase Young's not getting to the quarterback as much as he should.
Yeah, well, he's still. I mean, I'm pretty sure he just abused Andrew Thomas for much of the night.
But if you were to say abused Andrew Thomas, you would probably think like a 3-sack game.
Yeah, he right. He had a crucial penalty that was needless.
Dumb.
Led to a touchdown. All right, let's talk about the rest of this game here. You buying Daniel Jones? First of all, he's leading the team in rushing. 2 straight weeks he's led the team in rushing, and he is 17% rostered. And then I guess Heinicke is 8% rostered. I thought he played like crap. He just got kind of lucky. A lot of terrible throws that weren't intercepted, but 8% rostered. Do either of these guys feel like 1 quarterback league players to you?
Not yet, but Daniel Jones is getting close if he's going to run like this. I mean, first off, Giants, Washington, the read option, he's going left. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah, and then your thoughts on Barkley? He had a 41-yard carry. He had 12 carries for 16 yards otherwise, and 2 catches.
I would, without going crazy in terms of the players you're offering, make every trade offer you can for Saquon Barkley, because 10 days off now, Falcons next game. This is the game. We thought, okay, if they're going to ease him in, you got the tough opener against a good defense with Denver, then a tough turnaround with the Thursday game, and then now here we go. So
yeah, and he played a lot last night. He just didn't get a lot of carries, but I thought they would limit his snaps, and I didn't see. I don't remember the official. He played 84% of the snaps. So can he be?
There was a little concern before the game because he was warming up with the inactive guys. There was a couple of the beat writers that were like, "This is different." I was like, "Oh no!" I actually benched him in one league for Marquis Valdez-Scantling. Because I feel like my team's inferior to my opponent. So I was like, okay, let me shoot for home run play, and then I kept him in the other league. I have him starting.
Yeah, I benched him, and I told my brother to bench him for Kenny Golladay. That was almost a draw, but slight win for Barkley and PPR there. I think by 1 point. All right, who's the best Giants wide receiver rest of season? Shepard is crushing Golladay so far.
Shepard is awesome. Just he's fun to watch too. I mean, like, except stop giving him end arounds. Like, he almost got murdered there by Chase Young. I think he's the best one. Yeah, I mean, and now you might have a squeaky wheel game coming because Galladay's screaming at Daniel Jones on the sideline. So who knows? They got to get clearly Galladay going. I don't know what's happening with Kadarius Toney. Just a waste of a first-round pick so far. But Shepard is, yeah. I mean, he's got to be 100% roster. I don't get it.
McLaurin, do you use this as an opportunity to try to sell for an elite receiver, or do you use this as a springboard to an elite receiver season for McLaurin? 11 catches, 107 yards, and a touchdown. Did very well against James Bradbury, and had a great game. He
had not done well against Bradbury in the 2 previous meetings. A lot of his success came when he was off Bradbury, but you got to love this. I mean, this was whoever the quarterback was for Washington. Obviously you heard me say it a lot that I thought it'd be Fitzpatrick just leaning on him. That's what it was, and kudos to Washington, kudos to Heineke. He was on the right side all night long. So that's where he was looking. I think this is
similarly to the way you did in the preseason.
Yes, 100%. This was fantastic. 100% great to see, and he gave him some chances down the field. Like you said, he had some erratic throws that his receivers made some plays on. Obviously the Ricky Seals-Jones touchdown, but that's kind of I think part of a quarterback putting in a spot.
He balled out like toward the end, except for the interception.
Yeah, but there were some high throws. Look, he's not a purely polished quarterback. There's a reason why he's a backup. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think McLaurin's in a great spot. Actually, we had a trade offer in the podcast league, which I'm not always so quick to make decisions on those, especially when I share a team with somebody else. So we got offered. I forget who it was, so I apologize. Terry McLaurin for Cooper Kupp. I think it was yesterday. It might have been Wednesday. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Buy low on McLaurin, sell high on Kupp. Not that I think he's a sell high candidate, but coming off that huge game.
Yeah.
And during the game, the offer was pulled.
Logan Thomas, is he droppable? He's now had 3 catches, 30 yards, and a touchdown in week 1. And he had 5 catches for 45 yards in week 2. And the Giants really seem to struggle against tight ends, by the way. Keep that in mind for Kyle Pitts next week. But is Logan Thomas droppable?
I think let's get through another week of what does Cole Kmet do? What does, I don't think he's going to necessarily be dropped for guys like Farrell Brown or James O'Shaughnessy, but if those guys have another big week, you might have to consider it.
Juwan Johnson.
Juwan
Johnson.
That's the next thing I was going to say. Juwan Johnson as well. So, yeah, it's something you got to consider. And I guess we should bring this up while you mentioned his name. So what our technical team has done is they're putting out a statement on your league pages about what you can do with Juwan Johnson for his eligibility if he's not tight end eligible in your leagues. So all you have to do is enable the multiple position eligibility in your league settings. And to do this, you click the commissioner tools icon from a desktop or laptop computer. Select player pool and policies under the rosters, transactions, and player policies portion of the commissioner's tool page. At the top, find player eligibility policy and choose one of the below options. Be sure to save your changes. Players are eligible at multiple positions as determined by CBS Sports. Players are eligible only at their primary position. So obviously you want to click the multiple positions button, and that should solve the problem for those of you on CBS Sports leagues that can't put Juwan James as a tight end.
Juwan Johnson,
excuse me.
Yes. All right. That should be helpful for you. He should be a tight end. So good stuff. Not like Taysom Hill last year.
No.
All right. Listen, Sunday.
And then also look, same team. If Adam Troutman's going to get as many targets as he did, then go pick him up too.
Yeah. Sunday, it's week 2. Another NFL on CBS doubleheader. In the early action, the Raiders meet the Steelers. The others are going to see a matchup of rookie quarterbacks when the Patriots take on the Jets. And then it's a showdown out west with 2 teams ready to light up the scoreboard. Oh, I cannot wait for this game. Justin Herbert and the high-octane Chargers offense clash with Dak and the Cowboys. Coverage begins at noon Eastern with JB and the guys on the NFL Today. This Sunday, the best games are on the NFL on CBS. Here's your stat of the week. No, I'm not telling you to sit Tyler Lockett, but I love this. Just let's have fun with it. Let's see what happens. Last week, Tyler Lockett had exactly 100 yards. That was his 11th 100-yard game. In the previous 10 games, he has followed up those 100-yard games 9 times, 55 or fewer yards, and only 3 games with double-digit PPR fantasy points in his previous 10 games after a 100-yard game. 5 or fewer PPR fantasy points in half of those 10 games. It is wild, and he's doomed. No, he's stardom, but let's just see what happens, and we'll have a nice laugh about it unless we have Tyler Lockett on our team if he struggles. All right, news and notes. Josh Jacobs missed practice. Is there real concern about him missing the game at Pittsburgh? And if so, what would that do to Kenyon Drake and his ranking?
I mean, you should be concerned. You know, he was hobbling around, and we know this is a guy that's had some injury concerns in the past. And the Raiders have been, you know, you go back to his rookie season with the shoulder injury. Remember when they were out of the playoff race, they sat him down, and then when they somehow found their way back in it, they brought him back out there. So they've clearly, you know, used some kid gloves with him. I think if he's out, then Kenyon Drake becomes a high-end flex. It's not an easy matchup by any stretch, you know. So you would love the passing down usage. And what I think Devin Singletary went for about 70 yards rushing last week against the Steelers. So figure something along those lines. But I wouldn't, you know, all of a sudden make Kenyon Drake a must start in my rankings. But if you have him on your team, you'd be a lot more encouraged about it.
Zach Ertz was limited in practice. He's got a good chance to play. I mean, came back last week from the injury, but he's been limited.
He went from DNP to limited, which is, you know, trending in the right direction.
Jonnu Smith was limited in practice. So if he does not play, would Hunter Henry be a top 12 tight end for you against the Jets?
He'd be right there. You know, I mean, this was a good week for tight ends with some of the guys that we saw. Like I'd probably still put him behind Cole Kmet, for example, but he'd be top 13, I'd say. I think that's where I have Jonnu right now.
Will Fuller missed practice, but it was a personal reason. He is expected to play against the Bills.
We just don't know what his role is going to be, though.
True. Yeah. Marquise Brown missed practice with an ankle injury. So if he did not play Kansas City on Sunday night, where would you rank revenge game Sammy Watkins?
Around probably 30 to 36. I think that's where I have I have Marquise Brown around low 30s. So
okay. Right tackle Ronnie Stanley also may not play for Baltimore. Okay. San Francisco with yet another injury on defense. What is with this team? They just cannot stay healthy. Dre Greenlaw, linebacker, he's going to miss time. He's had groin surgery, or he's having it. Jamison Crowder and Keelan Cole both could play at New England, whereas Mekhi Becton is going to be out for 1 to 2 months. That's the Jets starting left tackle. Bruce Arians said all 3 of his running backs are starters. He's obviously not a fantasy analyst because they are not starters in that regard. Minnesota could be without Everson Griffin and 2 linebackers, Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr. And I talked about Nick Vigil on some show. I don't remember, but
Tuesday. I
said it on Tuesday. Okay. I also said it on a live stream. I said it Sunday on the live stream, but Nick Vigil started for Anthony Barr. I think he had 8 tackles. Which reminds me, IDP sleeper for your waiver claims. Cole Holcomb of the Washington football team He did not have a great night last night, possibly because the Giants didn't run the ball that much. He only, I think, had 5 tackles. He has played every snap in 2 games for Washington, and he had a good week 1. Cole Holcomb, if you need a linebacker to get some tackles. All right, Eric Ebron missed practice with a hamstring injury. Where would you rank Pat Freiermuth if Ebron sat?
Probably top 15. He actually played, I think, 2 more snaps than Ebron in week 1. So something to keep an eye on moving forward, how much they're going to use him by comparison. I don't know how much that factors in with, who's the better blocker of the 2. So just keep that in mind. But there's, just a lot to like about this matchup. Obviously, the Raiders, if you want to take into account what they did against Mark Andrews, I don't know how much of that was the Ravens taking Andrews out or the Raiders taking Andrews out. But clearly they stopped one of the best tight ends from being productive. So just keep that in mind.
Gabriel Davis practiced, and Darius Leonard missed practice again. So it would be a boost for Darrell Henderson if Leonard does not play.
Yep.
Leonard, for all you Miami Heat fans out there. All right, people. Looking sharp, dressing well. Very important. Because when you dress nicely, it's not just about how you look, it's about how you feel. Get that swagger, get that confidence. Next time you wear a suit, it better be an Indochino suit. Custom suits, you personalize every detail. Also, they have custom shirts. They have casual wear. They have more at surprisingly affordable prices. So go to Indochino.com, Indochino, and shop around, see what you like. Customize your suit. When you're done, use the promo code FFT for $50 off a purchase of $399 or more. Is that a lot? No, not for a custom suit. I mean, people pay double that or more for custom suits. You don't have to do that. Just go to Indochino. So for me, whether it was my rehearsal dinner, whether I go to other weddings, 2 years ago for the Super Bowl, when the Chiefs-Niners, I was in Miami with the guys and wanted to wear my best stuff, so I wore my Indochino suit. That's what I do. When I need to look great, I wear my Indochino suit. It fits me better than anything I've owned. I customized every detail of it. I got the monogram on the inside. I love it. Indochino, by the way, is now open at select Nordstrom stores, giving you even more ways to get great fitting, personalized clothing. Find your nearest location at Indochino.com. Again, the offer we have for you. You can get $50 off any purchase of $399 or more by using the code FFT at checkout. That's FFT at INDOCHINO.com. And that's $50 off a purchase of $399 or more. Let's beat the waiver wire. I'll look at week 3 matchups, but also just players that we're stashing right now. Jamie, you mentioned Marquis Valdez-Scantling. I saw you picked him up in a league. He had 8 targets. He actually led the team in targets last week.
I think it was 7.
Oh, then he had 7 and Adams had 8. I don't know. They both had 7 and 8. And he's at San Francisco next week. It's not even necessarily about the matchups, but maybe a role there for him.
If you want mostly this week.
Yeah, right. He could take advantage of the Detroit game. But if he is the second most targeted player on the team, maybe he has a surprise breakout.
Yeah, for sure. That's you're just looking for like a home run play. And so I think that's the type of thing. Like I don't expect him to be so heavily targeted moving forward. And I don't know what's going on with Randall Cobb. The fact that he only got 1 target and it was late in the game with Jordan Love. So keep that in mind. And clearly they were, blown out by the Saints. But you heard great things about him this offseason. So hopefully things carry over to the regular season, especially with that target share potential if he's going to get it.
And I've been stashing Larry Roundtree.
Yes.
Eckler's already hurt. He's fine, but he already has dealt with an injury scare. He hasn't proven that he can stay healthy. Roundtree appears to be the number 2 back there. Sam Darnold's at Houston. Tua's at the Raiders. I'm not sure if these are such appealing options.
No, but like some other receiver, pick up KJ Hamler if he's available. Like we're clearly expecting Tim Patrick to be the better guy, but if Hamler comes out and has a big game, that's somebody you want to look at with Judy's absence. We'll mention Troutman with his target share. Before maybe there's a big game against the Panthers. Juwan Johnson also, if he's still available. For what the Saints may do with their tight ends.
Available, and so is Tim Patrick. By the way, Tim Patrick 55%. They're at the Jets next week. So Bridgewater is another guy you could pick up at the Jets.
Yep.
Yeah. Sammy Watkins, 20% rostered. They're at the Lions next week. Maybe Christian Kirk. They're at the Jaguars or any of the, not AJ Green, I would say, but maybe there's something to Christian Kirk. Who knows?
Maybe
you might have a lousy player on your team that you have no use for. I took shots on Le'Veon Bell last week, and I dropped them for guys like Larry Roundtree. If you just have that extra roster spot, pick up somebody that, hey, you never know. DSTs for next week. Panthers are at Houston. Arizona's at Jacksonville. Atlanta is at the Giants. I thought that was in Atlanta, but Atlanta's facing the Giants. Where's that game? Does it matter? It's in New York. All right, so there's a little bit of beat the waiver. Anything else, or are we good?
No, I think you got it.
All right, let's do the startometer. The last 3 games we're going to preview today toward the end of the show. And remember, time codes. There are always time codes in the episode description. They may not be exact, but they're going to be close. So if you want to skip ahead to games, please do. This will be Minnesota at Arizona, Green Bay at Detroit, or Detroit at Green Bay, rather, and Tennessee at Seattle. Startometer 0 to 10, Kirk Cousins.
3.
You're worried about the pass rush?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm more intrigued by the pass attempts because he threw a lot the last 8 games of the year, and he was great. And then he threw well over 30 times last year. So, if he throws 35 or more times, do you think it even matters?
This feels like a 282-2 type of game. So not a horrible performance from him. But if that defense and the secondary played really well last week, because everybody's giving the pass rush credit, and look, the pass rush makes the secondary a lot better when the quarterback doesn't have time to throw. But the young guys in the secondary stepped up, and if the Bengals were getting to Cousins the way that they were last week, then Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt are going to get to Cousins, and so it could be a little bit of a tough go for him.
Chase Edmonds, startometer.
8 in PPR, 6 in non-PPR.
James Conner.
2 in PPR, 3 in non-PPR, and half PPR.
Any Arizona?
Most of his carries came late in the game when the game was out of hand.
Any Arizona wide receiver other than DeAndre Hopkins?
I don't think you can feel comfortable doing it. Like you said, you could take a flyer on Christian Kirk. You could take a flyer on Rondale Moore. Look at the targets and how those were split up. It was 6 for AJ Green and then 5 each for Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk. I think they're going to get those type of games. So like this week could be the Rondale Moore game. Next week could be the AJ Green game. You just don't know how Kyler's going to, lean on the other guys not named DeAndre Hopkins. So I'd take a more stash approach as opposed to start approach. So yeah, I just don't necessarily want to trust those guys. But you did see, look, all or 2 of the Bengals receivers had big games last week, so or relatively good games at least. T. Higgins had a touchdown.
Aaron Rodgers against Detroit. We'll go to this game.
50 billion.
Yeah, you have him in your top 5. AJ Dillon against Detroit.
Sneaky flex. I think he could have an opportunity here to maybe help you if you're stuck. So I'll say 5.
Dillon or Jamal Williams?
Oh, Jamal Williams. Too much more involvement there, at least as of now.
Marquis Valdez-Scantling.
5.
Tunyon.
5.
DeAndre Swift.
8.
Jamal Williams.
6.
Would you start DeAndre Swift or Chase Edmonds? They were both 8s for you.
Swift. Well, I mean, in PPR, yeah, Swift. Non-PPR, I still start Swift too.
Ryan Tannehill at Seattle.
7.
Julio Jones.
Ooh, he makes me nervous. I'll still say 6, but don't love it.
Chris Carson.
10.
Gerald Everett.
3.
Will Dissly.
3.
Atlanta at Tampa Bay.
100.
6. Oh, you're a lot more excited than I am. Potential problem here for Atlanta.
You think?
They allowed the second highest pressure rate of any team in week 1. Now they faced the Eagles, who had the second highest pressure rate, obviously, but actually the Eagles also had the second highest pressure rate last season. So it was not easy, but the Bucs had the third highest pressure rate last season. So it could be a tough day for the offensive line for Atlanta. Here's the stat of the game for you. There 75% of the running backs who had 15 or more carries against the Bucs last year scored a touchdown. And Davis had 15 carries last week. They could be very run heavy. I won't say but they could be run heavy this year. The only problem is, Jamie, only 4 running backs had 15 or more carries against the Bucs last year. It's hard to do. You're sitting Mike Davis, right?
Yeah, I have a tough call in our 24-team office league where we have to play 1 running back, and my top 2 guys are Mike Davis and Tyson Williams. So like I'm struggling with that. It's
Well,
PPR and it's weighted. It's like I think it's half point PPR for running backs, full PPR for wide receivers, and then 1.5 for tight ends. So I think Davis will do a little bit more in the passing game. So right now I have him starting, but that's where I am with those two guys. Like flex plays at best.
Okay. Start or sit Matt Ryan after the Bucs were torched by Dak Prescott.
Yeah, this is an interesting game for Ryan because you expect him to play better just because he's going to play better from a fantasy perspective. He's going to throw the ball a lot. Will he have success? Like you said, I think he's going to be under duress. This is not the same type of quarterback like Dak Prescott, not the same type of weapons like Dak Prescott. And remember, like they adjusted. I think Kellen Moore adjusted really well, seeing how the secondary fell apart once Murphy Bunting went out, and they found guys to attack. Will the Bucs now with 10 days have their adjustments ready that the Falcons have to make some changes for? So that's what you want to see. How the chess match unfolds. I just Ryan, I have him in a super flex league. That's where I'm starting him. If I had him in a 1 quarterback league, like a 14 team league or a 16 team league, I'd be panicked. So I'd be looking for I would have said Taylor Heineke. I have him ranked over Ryan.
Bridgewater.
Bridgewater's easy, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
For example, I start Tyrod over Matt Ryan this week.
All right, Mike Davis is actually Heath has him in the top 20, 18th. Dave and Jamie not so much on Mike Davis. So I wanted
Heath's process though. He doesn't change much from the start of the season until he gets more data.
Yeah, sure. He likes touches. I wanted to give a sleeper pick for Russell Gage. He had 2 big games against them last year. He had 5 for 68 and a touchdown in week 15, 9 for 91 and a touchdown in week 17. Both of those games without Julio Jones. He played only 68% of the snaps. So this was really interesting. Last week for the Falcons, Calvin Ridley played mid 84% or something like that. After that, Kyle Pitts and Russell Gage were second amongst the receiving options, and they only played 68% of the snaps. My theory is maybe it was in the fourth quarter they sat. I don't know. They got crushed. But Gage was playing 85, 90% of the snaps without Julio Jones down the stretch last year in 4 of the 5 games without Julio late in the season. But if he plays 90% of the snaps and they're in it, I kind of wanted to make a sleeper case for him, Jamie, for Russell Gage. Are you feeling that at all?
Your theory certainly makes sense. The fact that he only had 2 targets last week, though, is a little concerning. And, different regime, so how much are they going to look at him? And, what do you have the snap counts for Zacchaeus?
Yeah, I think it was like 18% off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the fact that they're going to use Hayden Hurst and Kyle Pitts in tandem a little bit, with Hurst more as the traditional tight end and Pitts more of a receiving threat. That could hurt Gage. So
I'll tell you what, throw him in a DFS lineup if you want to have fun with it. Nobody's starting Russell Gage, but that's another.
No, but that's not. Look, people are dropping him, and understandably so. And so if you want to put him in the beat the waiver wire guys, look, if he has a good game, you're going to want to have him on your team.
Zacchaeus was 19 snaps, 26%. Tajay Sharp, 14%. Yeah, but when I saw those snap counts, I was like, gosh, are they just going to be like the Titans? Just try to make Mike Davis Derrick Henry, because he played more snaps than Russell Gage and Kyle Pitts. But I don't know if it was, they lost 32-6. It might have been just a fourth quarter thing.
Yeah.
I don't have that. I'm sorry. All right, Kyle Pitts, speaking of which, 7th for you. He's 10th for Dave. He's 6th or 7th for Heath. Any waiver wire guys you'd start over Kyle Pitts?
I mean, if Gronk was on the waiver wire, then yes. But, no, I'm not there yet. I think the fact that he played, as much as he did, that he had 8 targets, that he, played in the slot, that he played out wide, so they're trying to obviously get him going. And, this is this is how they have to have success, is throwing the ball, so it's not going to come, hey, let's run Mike Davis into Vita Vea. That's just not going to work. So let's see what happens.
Cowboys tight ends caught all 9 of their targets for 65 yards in week 1. Tom Brady, Jamie's way too low on Brady. He's got him 6th. He's must start guy.
I'll tell you, I struggle with the top guys because I think they're all going to be awesome this week.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It's a matter of like who gets to 40.
And you have all of them ahead of Lamar Jackson. He's not in that elite group.
No, the Stanley injury makes me a little nervous, and if the run game isn't, helping him to the level that it's usually used to helping him, there's just a lot to put on his shoulders, which we typically like, but you're not benching him, so.
Sure. Brady's third for Dave and Heath. He's sixth for Jamie. And is it just start all wide receivers, sit all running backs for Tampa Bay?
Yeah, I mean, the big question is obviously Mike Evans, and is last week a sign of things to come, or is this a squeaky wheel game coming? I think it's a squeaky wheel game coming, but it's hard to say he's better right now than both the other two guys. So, I mean, for anybody that probably not handcuffed or friendship strategied Mike Evans and Antonio Brown, if you have that decision to make, that's, totally, I think, your call. For me, I would start Brown, right now, based on how last season ended and how week one started. Godwin to me is still the best one. So he's slightly ahead of the other two. But if I have Mike Evans on my team and I do in a couple leagues, I'm not benching him.
I'm going to give a quick sidebar in a second, but we'll finish this. We just get so many Antonio Brown questions. As of right now, and people have already set their lineups. As of right now, things could change before Sunday, obviously. Godwin is 98% started. Evans is 90% started. And Antonio Brown is 85% started. You'd start all of them over Mike Davis, right?
Yeah, easy.
Would you start, let's say, Miles Sanders coming off a good game or Antonio Brown?
Antonio Brown.
Would you start Chase Edmonds or Antonio Brown?
I would start Antonio Brown unless all those guys are out for the Vikings.
Julio Jones or Antonio Brown?
That's not close for me at this point. That's strange to say, but Antonio Brown.
Okay. And Rob Gronkowski, you said you'd start him over Pitts. Everybody's got him top 6. Heath has him 8th in PPR, but Rob Gronkowski is a must-start guy. Noah Fant or Gronk?
Gronk.
Okay. And Tampa Bay's DST is top 6 in this game. That one makes me a little nervous, but they should get to the quarterback for sure. Browns or Bucks?
Browns.
Packers or Bucks?
Bucks are rested, so I'm going to go Bucks.
So my little sidebar was that, the reason why I feel like this week might be a little easier for starter sit decisions is when you look at the defenses that make you nervous about wide receivers in particular, Denver's playing Jacksonville and it's kind of obviously like the Jacksonville, they're number 3 wide receivers and they're not studs. The Rams are playing the Colts. The Steelers are playing the Raiders. I don't know. We just don't have that many juicy, like Marshawn Lattimore's not playing. We don't have that many juicy cornerback versus wide receiver matchups this week.
No, we had one last night, and I had McLaurin ranked way too low, thinking about, the Next Gen Stats tweeted something last night about what McLaurin had done versus Bradbury in the 2 previous meetings. And then, this is his best game against them by far and new quarterback. So not that I was benching Terry McLaurin, but I was concerned, so.
Oh, God, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, that was one in particular.
Yeah, but McLaurin had 2 good games against the Giants last year. So that's the other thing is there are some cornerbacks, you worry about the cornerbacks. It doesn't mean they're going to be stuck to them like glue the entire game.
Right. So let's go back to last Thursday night with the Bucks and the Cowboys and how Trayvon Diggs did against. I always feel like I'm saying is Trayvon or Trayvon?
It's Trayvon.
Trayvon. So I apologize. Trayvon Diggs against Edmonds. He was on him for 80% of the game. Right. There were times obviously where he was not on him. So, that's may have been when the 6 targets occurred. I don't think that's entirely true, but, clearly that's opportunities that he could still make some plays. Now, when you have a receiver catching 11 passes, clearly McLaurin, and if you watch the game, he was doing that on Bradbury. Great corners make mistakes. If you talk to guys who cover the NFL, they will tell you great quarterbacks will challenge great cornerbacks and see if their receivers can make plays, especially if you have great receivers. It's why, you would see Randy Moss make plays on Darrelle Revis, in the 2007 season, just going back to, that. I'm sure there's countless other examples we can throw out there, but it's just the concerns you might have when you have these guys in coverage. So yeah, this is not one of those weeks. I'm with you. It's not like you're You wouldn't be playing Michael Pittman anyway, but the fact that Jalen Ramsey's in town, like, you're going to stay away from that matchup entirely.
Yeah, even though it doesn't appear like he's going to be shadowing receivers this year.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, for the Dolphins, for example, like Tre'Davious White, I don't think is going to determine how you view the Dolphins receivers.
Yeah. Okay, San Francisco at Philadelphia. Big game here. Stat of the game, Raheem Mostert missed 8 games in 2020. A San Francisco running back rushed for a touchdown, at least one touchdown, in 7 of 8 games. Actually, if I think I might have gotten that wrong, scored a touchdown, not necessarily rushed for, in 7 of 8
I think
games.
McKinnon had a couple of receiving ones, right?
Well, yeah, but I think there was one game where I think it was Wilson, caught a touchdown. McKinnon did, but also in that game, they were rushing touchdowns. But there was one game where Wilson had a good game, didn't rush for a touchdown, but he caught one. So 7 of 8 games without Mostert, a running back scored a touchdown. They didn't necessarily run the ball that well, except for Jeff Wilson. So keep that in mind. Give me your thoughts on Elijah Mitchell and this backfield, Trey Sermon, J. Michael Hasty.
I think that Mitchell is a starter in non and half PPR. I think he's a borderline starter in flex in full PPR. So, for example, like if you're debating him versus Nyheim Hines or James White or those type of running backs, he's in the conversation. I would put him ahead of those guys just based on what I expect his touches to be, but he's in that conversation. But in non PPR, clearly you're hoping for 15 to 20 carries like we saw last week, and the chance to be, north of 80 yards rushing with a chance to score. So I think that's where he has a chance to win. I have no idea what they're going to do with Trey Sermon or the addition of Trenton Cannon. And the only reason I bring those 2 names up, because I think JaMychal Hasty is definitely active, is if Sermon did not have, I think, what Kyle Shanahan and the coaching staff believes to be a good week of practice, are they going to make him inactive again because they have another running back who we saw can carry the ball in a pinch if needed, like he did it for the Ravens last week, but also play on special teams. So as everything is unfolding here, I think if Trey Sermon is active, I would kind of not downgrade Mitchell, but I'd be a little bit leery of Mitchell if I have a debate. So the one name I didn't mention, if you're talking PPR, would be Kareem Hunt, for example. So like if you have Kareem Hunt and you picked up Elijah Mitchell, right now I have Hunt ranked higher in PPR. So if you're debating those type of guys, that might be something that might make me concerned if Sermon's active. If Sermon's inactive, though, you got to feel much more comfortable about where Mitchell's at, and they can make Hasty, a 10 carry guy. We just don't know. But I think if they make Trey Sermon inactive once again, that's telling you that Elijah Mitchell's their guy moving forward, for sure.
What do you think about Hasty makes Wasty? I need a podcast league name, team name there. I don't know.
I think somebody, because I changed the names in the podcast league because of the story, and I think somebody changed their team name to, can we change our team names yet? Yes, you can.
Yes, you are free to do so. Okay, so Elijah Mitchell or Devontae Smith?
Mitchell and non-PPR, Smith and PPR.
Okay, Elijah Mitchell or Mike Davis?
Elijah Mitchell in both formats.
Okay. What do you think about Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk this week? And obviously sitting Garoppolo, but what do you think about the wide receivers?
I think if you started Samuel last week because he was drafted as a borderline number 3 guy, then you absolutely start him again. If you're in a 2-receiver league, I would take a kind of a cautious approach unless your receiving core is not very good. So I think he's going to have a little bit of a difficult matchup with Darius Slay. If that's how the Eagles decide to approach it. He's going to clearly lead the team in targets, but I don't think George Kittle's getting shut out like he did last week, or to the level that he got shut out last week.
He's going to leave the wide receivers in targets.
Samuel.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Kittle might out target him.
I think he's going to lead the wide receivers in targets. I think he's not going to lead the team in targets. I think that will be Kittle. I think Kittle has a bounce back game. So Samuel is the
bounce back game. He had like 75 yards or something, right?
Well,
but he didn't score. No, I know, but
I guess not a bounce back game. The best game of the 49ers receivers.
Yeah.
So, I don't think Deebo Samuel does that again. That was probably his best game. So, you're looking at just that's a terrible defense that they played last week. This is a much tougher team. So you got to be thrilled about Samuel. I think he's one of the biggest sell high candidates that we had last week, if not the biggest. So I'd be shopping him. You cannot trust Brandon Ayuk to play this week, let alone be a fantasy option this week. but he's a buy low candidate. So I said this on HQ. If you wanted to flip them, I would do that. I would sell Samuel for Ayuk just to see what happens moving forward.
Yeah, George Kittle, we're going to start him. It just felt funny because Waller had such a big game. Kelsey had a huge game. Kittle had a great game, but he just didn't score. But, only one tight end all last year had more than 54 receiving yards against the Eagles, and it was Kittle. He had 183 on 15 catches on 15 targets. Jalen Hurts, should I be insulted that he's only 10th in your quarterback rankings?
It's a good week for quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think he's 9th, though, right? Don't I have him ahead of Lamar?
Oh, okay. Okay, you moved him up. Yes, you do. All right, yeah. I mean, it's just a loaded, but you're starting Jalen Hurts.
He was one of the more impressive players that last week that I don't think we spent enough time talking about. I'm sure you guys did Sunday night, but
yeah.
Just the concerns you may have had. And again, Atlanta's defense not good, but connecting with his receivers, running to the level they did, 62 yards rushing, keep that going. My gosh, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback like I thought he could be if things go right.
Kenneth Gainwell, he's a little risky. He's outside the top 36 in both formats. How do you feel about Miles Sanders? Are you confident in him? Last week, 15 carries, 74 yards, 4 catches, 39 yards.
I'll take that all day. Touchdowns will come. So you're telling me he's getting, close to 20 total touches and, over 100 total yards. That's fantastic. And it's kind of like, the Gibson thing, like we said, week 1, was that a disappointment or was that a strong, or good enough game? So to me, that was a good game for Miles Sanders, knowing again that it was a blowout as well. So I'm very encouraged. A little bit, keeping an eye on just how much Gainwell takes away in the passing game from him moving forward, but 4 catches is hard to overlook.
Okay, and Philadelphia who's the best wide receiver in this game, Smith or Debo?
For me, it's Smith. No Jason Verrett. That's no Greenlaw. They're down 2 guys on their defense already. We'll see if Javon Kinlaw plays. That'll help the interior of the pass rush. But I like what they did. There was a good pick play to get Smith in the end zone. I think things only get better from him. It's his first home game, too.
I think Emmanuel Mosley yesterday was not practicing. So that's a starting cornerback. He missed week 1 for the 49ers. I mean, if he doesn't play, yeah, it could be much better. They could be down both of their starting corners and sit Jalen Reagor after the good game. And Dallas Goedert. I mean, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that Goddard only had 5 targets. I know he caught a touchdown, but he only had 5 targets. Jalen Hurts threw 35 passes. Is he a top 12 guy for you this week?
Yes, absolutely. Especially if Ertz is not at 100% or doesn't play. If he doesn't play, then he's borderline top 5 guy.
Yeah, yes. But if Ertz does play.
If Ertz does play, yeah, he's top
12. Kmet, Goddard.
Over.
Fant?
Goddard over Kmet.
Fant?
Fant over Goddard, but it's close.
Okay. Niners DST. Jamie has him 15th. Dave 12th. Heath 9th. We're going to take a break. We got 5 games left. We'll go to New Orleans at Carolina. Can Jameis Winston throw 5 touchdowns on 20 passes again? We'll let you know right after this. Back here on Fantasy Football Today, finishing off the NFC home games. No Marshawn Lattimore for the Saints. Kevin Crawley.
He did practice, though, which was interesting.
Oh, really? I just assumed he was out. I mean, they said
he's most likely not going to play. My guess he was just running around out there. But the fact that they said it's multiple weeks and he's already out on the practice field is a really good sign.
They're beat up in the secondary. Kevin Crawley, a cornerback, he's out. PJ Williams, defensive back, he missed practice on Wednesday. I didn't see the Thursday report. Marcus Davenport is also out. I don't know how they had such a good performance against the Packers, but they're a little beat up. So I don't know if that helps your DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson outlooks. Obviously, we're going to start the running backs in this game. We'll come back to Tony Jones in a second. But are there any – let's talk about the fringy guys here. Let's talk about Jameis, and start with him. Start or sit Jameis?
I think it depends on your team, clearly. So like I like Roethlisberger better. I like Burrow better. I would start him, Jameis, over Cousins. I'd start him over Trevor Lawrence. So some guys that were probably drafted ahead of him. He's in that teens range, high teens.
Okay. And Marquis Callaway, start or sit?
I'm going to put him in the number 3 receiver range. So if you start 3 receivers, I go back to him. Like I'm starting him. I started him over Galladay last night in one league. I'm debating. It's PPR. It's half PPR. Excuse me. Callaway versus Jacoby Myers. So he's not a slam dunk start, but the fact that he was on the field as much as he was, and James only throwing 20 pass attempts in a game that they dominated. This game, I think will be more competitive. Not that the Panthers are better than the Packers, but like you said, the defense is a little bit beat up. So I think Callaway has a better performance. To what extent, I don't know, but I hope it's a good one because otherwise he's going to get dropped. Like I had somebody asking me today, a friend of mine, should I drop Marcus Callaway for Rondale Moore because I'm never going to start Callaway on my team. So I'm not there yet by any stretch, but you're starting to get questions like that.
Okay. Would you start Marquez Callaway or Marquez Valdez-Scantling?
Callaway still.
Okay. Which Saints tight end would you prefer, and is he a start? And they are, by the way, calling Juwan Johnson, quote, Baby Megatron. That is his nickname, apparently.
Neither of them are starts, but both of them are certainly should be on your radar. So if you, like you were saying, if you have a tight end, a roster spot to play with, pick up either Troutman or Johnson. I think, Johnson might have more upside, especially if his role in the red zone is going to be like that. But, we'll see. Troutman led the team in targets on a game where Jameis, like you said, threw 20 times.
Jared Cook caught a touchdown both games against the Panthers last year. So I don't know if that matters to anybody, but let's keep that streak going here. Sit Darnold, start McCaffrey, and break down the Panthers wide receivers this week.
DJ Moore is a starter in PPR, a borderline guy in non-PPR. We'll see how much of the pass rush is lost with Davenport not being there. And, I don't think necessary with Davenport not being there. With Lattimore not there, and the secondary beat up a little bit, so that helps clearly. So I think it's just a matter of how much you trust Darnold and how much, you have faith in him connecting with those guys. So Anderson is a number 3 receiver. Moore, for the most part, though, will be started.
Moore's ADOT is something to track, a little bit down from 2020. I just didn't like it in 2020. He was running deeper routes and only had 66 catches in 15 games. The year before that, he had 87 catches. And his ADOT closer to what it was in 2019 than it was in 2020. I mean, that's good. I mean, I want to see more catches for him because last year he was a non-PPR guy. We want him to be a PPR guy. And the Saints DST is top 10 at 81%. And I think that's it for this game. All right, Cincinnati is at Chicago. Stat of the game, Joe Mixon had more carries than Joe Burrow had pass attempts in week 1, which is weird. It's not like they were nursing a lead here. But 29 carries for Mixon, 27 pass attempts for Burrow. Starter said Burrow. Burrow or Winston?
Burrow.
Okay, he's just outside your top 12. And Mixon is top 10.
That was the fewest pass attempts he's had in a game in his career. Short as it may be.
I hope it's not a sign of things to come because it's just going to suck for the wide receivers if they're running.
Well, I mean,
it's going to suck. I mean, Boyd was horrible. Higgins got saved by a touchdown. Chase was great, but still, you can't. I think 29 is really low. They're not going to be the Browns, but I was expecting them to throw the ball a lot. I was surprised by what they did last week. What did you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially, given the amount of volume that they had, and I thought that the score would be the other way, where they would be chasing as opposed to Minnesota chasing. So that was another defense that really let me down was the Vikings last week. So we'll see what happens with them moving forward. All
right. So who's your favorite receiver this week for the Bengals?
You got to go back to Chase. It's not a huge separation between him and Higgins, but the connection was there. The big play was there. I don't know. It's hard to get away from what Chase could be, which is what we thought, could be fantastic. The drop story is, something that brought his value down a little bit, but, we told you not to panic, and week 1 should have put all that to rest.
Okay. So how many Bucs receivers are you starting over Jamar Chase?
2.
Not Evans.
Not Evans, but they're close.
Evans or Higgins?
Higgins, but close.
Higgins or Damian Harris?
Higgins and PPR, Harris and none.
Higgins or Chase Edmonds?
Higgins.
And is Boyd just a sit?
He's not a sit. He's a number 3 receiver in PPR, but like you said, we need to see a little bit more. This is not going to be, I think, a track meet type of game. I can't imagine that the Bears offense is just going to all of a sudden be amazing unless the other quarterback starts, not Andy Dalton. Justin Fields starts. But I I think it's going to be, another probably not low scoring, not low pass attempt type of game for Joe Burrow, but it could be. I think 35 is probably where I'd cap it.
Yeah, last year I mentioned that Bengals don't have that bad of a secondary, but last year almost
they have corner issues. Their safeties are really good.
Yeah, almost every good wide receiver had a good or great fantasy game against the Bengals, and they did. I mean, Justin Jefferson was disappointing, 71 yards, but Thielen had a huge game. KJ Osborne had 76 yards, so I don't think this is a tough matchup. And for the Bears, it's Montgomery and Robinson are clear must starts, right?
Yes.
And then Cole Kmet is 14th for you in 13th in PPR. He had 5 catches, 42 yards. He had 7 targets, though, at the Rams. And, yeah, you can take a flyer on him. So Kmet or Juwan Johnson?
That's format. So Johnson, non-PPR, Kmet, PPR.
Okay. All right, sit the DSTs, and let's go to Minnesota at Arizona. Your stat of the game. Just taking a look at how the Cardinals did with Chandler Jones last year. He only played 5 games. They weren't great against quarterbacks. Garoppolo scored 22 points. Stafford 22. Bridgewater scored 30, but he had a rushing touchdown. They also faced Joe Flacco and Dwayne Haskins. So they weren't really tested, but Garoppolo, Stafford, and Bridgewater scored 22 to 24 fantasy points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues, which is okay. I don't know. There's much that. They didn't have J.J. Watt last year, but there is that. So we already talked about Cousins. Heath does not like him much at all. He's 23rd. 16th for Jamie, 14th for Dave. And decent starter. Start Cook, they're the Vikings are so easy.
Yep. You start the 3 guys.
Yeah, and not looking at KJ Osborne, right?
No, and I don't think Conklin is a starter either. He did have 4 for 41 last week. So just keep in mind, if you're looking for a deeper tight end play moving forward, but no.
Are you starting Kyler this week?
Maybe.
He's number 1 for you, huh?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Start Kyler Murray. So tell me how you feel about this backfield here. Actually, I think Edmonds had 12 carries. Connor had 16. Edmonds had 4 catches. Connor did not. Connor he was on the field near the goal line, but they actually pretty sure they had the same amount of carries through 3 quarters. So even though Connor had more, you're right. He did have some late in the game, garbage time, but through 3 quarters, I'm almost positive they had the same amount of carries. If not, it was very close. So it seems like you like Edmonds more than Connor.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's closer in non-PPR, whereas Connor's more of a borderline flex play. But in PPR, Edmonds is going to dominate him in catches. At least that's the way it looks like, and what we thought going into the season. So I think Edmonds is a very good play in PPR. And it's a matter of what he's going to give you in non-PPR. So if you tell me that he's getting close to 15 carries, then he's going to be a weekly starter in every format moving forward.
Would you start Chase Edmonds over the Broncos running backs?
In PPR, yes. In non-PPR, no.
James Robinson or Chase Edmonds?
I'd start Edmonds in both. I'm scared to death about the Jaguars running backs.
It looks like you have Devin Singletary and Edmonds very close.
In non-PPR.
And then in full PPR, it's Edmonds?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. So a little confidence there in Edmonds. And Arizona wide receivers, anyone other than Hopkins?
No, like I said, this could be the Rondale Moore week. Could be the AJ Green week. So I would like to see Christian Kirk, build off what he did last week. He had 2 games last season with multiple touchdowns in them, but a lot of games where he didn't score and wasn't involved. So the fact that it was 6-5-5, Green, Moore, and Kirk in targets, Kirk just happened to make the bigger plays. So I wouldn't trust them as starters this week. No.
Poor AJ Green. Last year he had more targets when Burrow was healthy than Higgins, and Higgins was just so much better than him. And he was this guy. He just gets so many targets. It was so bad with that, but he had 6 targets for 25 yards last week, whereas Rondale Moore had 68 yards and Kirk had 70 yards. Just poor AJ Green. Detroit at Green Bay.
I think he'll be okay.
If you're sitting there going, hey, if they're going to blow out Green Bay, if they're going to blow out Detroit, is Aaron Rodgers going to have enough volume? Is he going to, do well? They beat 8 teams last year by 14 or more points. Rodgers, tell me if this sends shivers down your spine. He scored 29 or more fantasy points in 7 of those 8 games. That's great. There was only one exception, and it was Detroit at home in week 2. He scored 22 points in that game. But when they blew teams out in 7 of 8 games, he was the reason why, basically.
Unless there's like, 2 or 3 defensive scores and, he has 250 and 2 by the third quarter, and they sit him in the fourth quarter, I can't see a scenario where he's not just, trying to do what Aaron Rodgers typically does when things are bad for the Packers and say, we're okay, relax, all the things that he typically does. So, I'll buy in. Am I making a mistake by saying Rodgers over Brady? Maybe. But I don't know. I can't picture a scenario where he doesn't have the chance to play well. We don't know how things will unfold during the game, but is the offensive line really that much of a disaster? Like, last week seemed to indicate. Is the run game going to struggle? Like last week seemed to indicate. I don't know. I don't think Detroit's very good defensively. So this should be an easy layup game for Rodgers and the Packers and Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones.
And then on the other side of the ball, it's just it's Hawkinson, obviously. But the running backs, this to me is a storyline worth watching every week, especially with Jamal Williams. And you guys have him ranked pretty high. I mean, you have him 24th in 21st in PPR. That was as of yesterday, so it might be a little bit different now, but everyone's got him in the top 30. So, yeah, how do you see this backfield playing out? And the reason why I struggle so much is just because they weren't very good until the fourth quarter when the Niners pulled their starters, except Swift did have the touchdown catch.
I think the same thing unfolds. They don't have receivers. Tyrell Williams in the concussion protocol, so this receiving core is not good. We said that going into the season. So it can't just be Jared Goff throwing to Hawkinson. They're going to throw to Quentin Cephas and, the other guys that are there, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And they had a guy, I forget his name, that they signed 3 days before the start of the season that had, a little bit of an impact. Their running backs are huge parts of the passing game. This was what Heath was so excited about for Swift and for Williams, and it played itself out in week 1. And so you got Jamal Williams going back to Green Bay for, revenge game, former team. I think he'll be welcomed back there. It's not going to be an animosity type of thing. But I think he's going to get some opportunities. Swift, as we saw, looked pretty good despite the groin injury. Now he's on the injury report. Both of them are actually, so just keep that in mind. But I think as long as they both play, Swift is a must-start guy, and Williams is a borderline starter. I like him better in PPR than not.
And Tyson Williams or Jamal Williams?
Jamal.
Tyson he's your highest ranked Ravens running back?
Yes.
Okay. Green Bay DST is low end start, 9th, 11th, 12th for Jamie Davis. Tennessee at Seattle. I believe this is our last game. Stat of the game. Many people know that grunge bands such as Nirvana and Soundgarden got their start here, but Sir Mix-a-Lot, Kenny G, Kenny Loggins, and Hart also began here.
You love these.
Yeah. That's according to postcards2seattle.com. Jamie, if you were going to pop in, had a 4-disc changer in your car and you had 4 CDs, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Kenny G, Kenny Loggins, and Hart. This is your Seattle collection. Which one would you play today?
Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Come on. He's got 1 song.
That's all you need.
You got Danger Zone? Is that Kenny Loggins?
Might be.
Oh, that better be him. You got Footloose. You got I'm alright. Whatever that song's called.
And yes, ladies and gentlemen, he found a way to sing.
Please tell me he sang Danger Zone. Yeah, he did. That's got to be. I would actually go with Hart. I'm not going to sing Hart, but that's who I would go with. All right, Ryan Tannehill, just outside the top 12. So Tannehill, Cousins, Winston. How do you have them ranked? They're all very close. They're like back to back.
Tannehill, Winston, Cousins.
Okay. Derrick Henry, top 10. But just going back to Tannehill, is there anyone surprising that's ahead of him in the rankings?
Ben.
Okay. Schrager?
Gretch.
Oh.
Seattle. They're going to Seattle.
All right. Yeah. All right. So Derrick Henry start, AJ Brown start, Julio Jones. Why are you so nervous about him?
I mean, he didn't look good last week. The whole team didn't look good, but I hope, this is my hope for the Titans, that Tannehill missed time being on the COVID list. Julio missed a month with a leg injury. AJ Brown missed time with, recovering from knee surgery. They didn't have a lot of time in the field together. So was that the kick the rust off, knock out the rust game in week 1? Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah, hope so. So who would you start over him? Would you start Julio
Mike
Jones?
Williams over Julio Jones.
Let me do some running backs. Would you start Elijah Mitchell over Julio Jones?
In non-PPR, yes.
Full PPR?
No.
Would you start Chase Edmonds or Julio Jones?
Chase Edmonds in PPR, so both.
Half PPR, would you start Darrell Henderson or Julio?
Henderson in every format.
You like Henderson a lot this week, yeah. Full PPR, Hines or Julio?
Still Julio.
Okay. Start all your Seahawks except for the tight ends. And can you just respect the fact that Kenny Loggins has a song in 3 80s hits, right? He's got Footloose. He's got at the beginning of Caddyshack. And he's got the Top Guns. Like Danger Zone was in Top Gun, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's
Come on, sing it. You know you want to sing it.
I can't sing anymore.
Come on, Highway to the Danger Zone. Let's go.
I'll just do that. I'll just hum. All right, everybody.
I know. Look, the only thing you remember about Top Gun is the volleyball game.
It's just a crap movie all around.
Did the second one come out yet? No, right?
I don't know, but I saw the Footloose remake. Did you ever see the Footloose remake? That must have been 10, 15 years ago. I'm not joking. I mean, it's on the short list of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's on the list of movies I've walked out on. I did walk out in that movie. It's not good.
I haven't seen the first one in a long time, but it still cracks me up every time I watch Avengers Endgame. And when Quill says to Tony Stark and Spider-Man when they see each other on Titan, and they realize he's from Earth, and Spider-Man makes a Footloose reference. I think it was. No, it has to be Tony Stark. Tony Stark makes a Footloose reference, and he says, "Is that still the greatest movie ever?"
As you can tell, I've never seen Endgame, but that is very funny.
What?
Yeah, I know. I'm not a comic book guy. Yeah,
Or no, it's not Endgame. That's Infinity War. Sorry.
I think I did see half of Infinity War, and it was really I saw. Which is the one where they're in like a diner and Hulk is like having a weird scene where he's like,
that's Endgame.
I saw half of that. It was awesome. And then I fell asleep. Anyway, thank you, Jamie. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening.
Amazing.
We've got what?
Your takes.
Amazing. No, it was a great movie. It was long.
You fell asleep.
Actually, you know when I watched that? Why am I bringing this up? Canes Gators, that game. I was at my friend's house in Orlando before the game. I watched a little bit of the movie, and then I had a crappy night.
Big week for the Gators, buddy.
Oh, good luck. Try not to lose by 26 or whatever it was. Or whatever.
I got to check the injury report to see if Richardson's healthy.
Thanks again. We'll talk to you on the mailbag on Saturday, and you know the drill. We'll talk to you on Sunday basically all day. We're in.